All right, a little bit different video tonight. Just picked up this Minneapolis Moline 112 Hydro, 1967. This is kind of a special 112 Hydro, very special to me. Kind of a long story, but a good story, I think. This tractor was initially used at the Minneapolis Moline depot in Columbus, Ohio, on the west side there. In 1967, they used it to mow the grass around the building there. And in 1968, they called my grandpa and said, "Hey, we're going to get another one. Do you want to buy this?" So Grandpa bought this tractor in 1968 and used it all the way up until the summer that he passed. And I, growing up, remember him using this tractor all the time. And in fact, when I was a teenager, probably, 12, 13, I started spending time down there more. I would use it to cut the grass around their house. So after Grandpa passed, unfortunately, they thought they were going to be selling the farm, and my grandma told my uncle to get rid of this. They didn't need it anymore. And so he took it to an auction in Mount Gilead, Ohio in 2003, and he didn't say anything to me, and I wasn't collecting tractors yet, so I didn't know that he was doing it. He didn't know that I might want it. And it sold for pretty cheap, actually. And when I found out, I was kind of heartbroken, but well, what are you going to do? So time goes by, and for the last 19 years, I've always wondered, and especially since I started collecting Molines, wondered what happened to this. I've always kept my eye open around, that Mount Gilead area up there to see if maybe it stayed local. And figured it was gone. I figured it was in somebody's collection, or maybe it had made it to the scrapyard. I don't know. So fast forward again to last week. I was out of the country on a work trip, and I had some time during one of the days, and I was on Facebook Marketplace kind of scrolling through, and always look at the Molines on there, kind of an addiction. And just so happened to see this tractor on there. I'm like, boy, that looks a lot like Grandpa's, but the rear tires are different. It had actually the tires on it like were on the front, but it had the hubcaps, and it was just sitting there. So I messaged the guy and just said, "Hey, do you happen to know," and it was in Missouri, "do you happen to know where that tractor came from?" And he had bought it at the Foss Day auction last summer. Guy was a collector of Molines and had a lot of lawn tractors, and said he'd had it about a year, and he just wasn't going to get around to messing with it, so he was selling it. And I said, "Well, it kind of looks like my grandpa's, but I'm not real sure." And so he messaged back and he said, "Well, did your grandpa's have a blue Ford mower deck on it?" And actually, Grandpa's, at one point, he had worn out the Moline deck because he used it for so long. They found this Ford deck in Columbus. It was bare, nothing on it. You can see it's got the yellow pulleys and all. They switched everything over and put this on it so he could keep mowing with it, because he liked mowing with his Moline. In fact, at one point in the early 90s, he bought a Cub Cadet. They started mowing the lawn with that, but he still used the 112 to mow around fence rows and stuff. So when he said that, I said, that's kind of maybe another coincidence, but that doesn't mean that it's Grandpa's. And it has the Moline tag on it, and it's a 67, so that would line up. And I'd sent some pictures to my uncle, but he doesn't get text messages on his phone, and so I sent them to a friend, and he hadn't looked at it. And night goes by, and the next morning, my uncle talked to him, and he said, Grandpa, he said, there's something on there that'll identify it as Grandpa's. He said that front cast piece on the front at one point cracked at the bottom, and Grandpa had made a fix. He took a piece from, I think it was a white field cultivator or something, just a little 2-inch piece of red strap metal, and he put it on the front to fix that. He goes, if that's on there to fix that crack, he said, that's probably it. And so I looked at the pictures and I could kind of see that on there, but the pictures weren't clear. So I messaged the guy and said, yeah, it's on there. And then my uncle looked at the pictures and called me and he said, that is 100% Grandpa's old 112 hydro. The lever for the manual PTO was gone, and my uncle said, well, you know, that fell off one time and Grandpa ran over it with the mower, and then there's a little ding back here in this fender, and he said, oh yeah, that happened. So one thing led to another, and the guy was asking a little more than I would normally pay for a tractor like this, but slept on it again and talked to my uncle in the morning, and I said, I've wondered where this thing has been for the last 19 years, and now I found it. I got to bring it home. So bought it, and then my uncle drove out to Missouri on Monday and picked it up. Fortunately for me, he was willing to do that because I don't know when I would find time. And I met him in Springfield, Ohio yesterday, and drove the truck over there, and we loaded it from his truck to mine, and I brought it home last night. Kind of a little bit emotional rolling it back here into the barn because it's the first time in 19 years I've laid eyes on it and had it home. So got it home. I just put a battery in it. I was going to see if it would turn over. The key switch was, you can see the ignition switch is there. It was rusted. It wouldn't turn. Put an ignition switch in. I'm not getting anything, any juice to the starter, so I'm going to go through that. I already took one shield off it. So I just want to see, he had a video of it running last year, so I want to see if it'll run. You can see it's got the hubcaps on it. You know, that was the thing that I always thought was strange when I was growing up, is that Grandpa's lawn tractor had hubcaps on it, but that was an option. They're unfortunately a little rusty. The guy that had it had done just a little bit of polishing on it. So you can see on the hood there, it's kind of dull on one side and a little brighter on the other. So I think the original paint will clean up. Did a little bit on this fender, and then on the back here, he did a little bit. So I think I know what I can do with buffing compounds. I'm pretty sure I can keep this. The one thing that's going to have to go is the rear tires, because those are not standard on this tractor and they don't match the front. And I always remember it with that original tread pattern. So I will swap those out. And it's missing the cover that goes over the battery, but I have one of those. It's a replacement that I bought. The seat's in kind of sad shape, so I can do that. My uncle said that they rebuilt the engine in the 90s, the Kohler 12 horse, put an oversized piston in it, so it shouldn't have a whole lot of hours. I don't know what it did for the last 19 years, but it didn't get a lot of hours on it back then. One thing I noticed last night, and just a little bit I messed with it, there's some padding here, because initially there's tabs that go in here that spring the hood up. It actually so much that it's wore a hole in the hood, which doesn't surprise me because Grandpa ran the crap out of it. Used it a lot, and it's missing the latches to hold the hood down, so I'll have to find those. Obviously I have to find a rod for the manual PTO. But all in all, it's not, if you can imagine what good shape it was in 19 years ago, and then it sold for next to nothing, breaks my heart. And so it's got 19 more years of wear, which I wish it would have been in my barn, because it would still look pretty much like new, like Grandpa had it. But I'm just glad to have it back. I'm not complaining. I want to make that clear. I can't get the hydrostatic drive knob to turn, so I got to see why that is. But yeah, that's my big excitement. That was my purchase from a week ago when I'm in a Central American country. Who would ever thought? I was in shock all last week. Like, I can't believe I finally found it. I can't believe it. Like 19 years, and it's back home. It's back where it should be. It's going to make a nice match for the 110 hydro. That's all original. That was Francie Hollins from Holland Equipment in Mount Sterling, Ohio / London, Ohio. I was able to buy Francie's original. He never sold it. They just use it to mow around the place there, and it's in nice shape. So, and Francie and Grandpa were really good friends. So it's going to be great to be able to take these to shows and display these two tractors, lawn tractors, next to each other at shows. I think Grandpa and Francie up in heaven will be smiling down on that, because that's they were good friends and they did a lot of fishing together, and they like to kid around a lot, and that their two lawn tractors are around. It's pretty neat. So I'll do a bunch of work to this just to get it running and to get it look a little better with polishing, and probably see what I can do about the hubcaps to make them shiny again. And yeah, if anybody's had heirloom tractors in their family, they're very special. And when they get away from you, it hurts. I see all the time guys posting online that they're looking for a tractor that was their dad's or their grandpa's that got away, and they're always trying to find it. I never thought I would see this thing ever again. I bought a 112 Hydro just kind of in memory of Grandpa, just because he had one. I wanted to have one to take to shows with that 110, and the simple fact that I found this, I'm able to bring it home, I'm going to be able to display it. Yeah, it just makes me pretty happy. And that's kind of why we all do this old tractor thing, is because we got memories that go with these things. And when it's the exact tractor that you've made memories on, and that you remember your loved ones, especially my grandpa was my hero. He was really, he was my dude. And so I'm happy to get this, because I know this is one of his pride and joys. My UB, that was one of his pride and joys too, and I've got it restored, and that was my first one I restored. So yeah, it's a happy day here in the Moline Ranch. If you're not familiar with these, Jacobson made these for Ford, Moline, Oliver. So it's some slight differences, but they're all pretty much the same. I guess what differentiates them is you got a Moline serial number tag there that kind of shows that this was an exact Moline. They all use the Kohler engines. From 7 horsepower up to 14, they did a 7, they did an 8, they did a 10, a 12, and a 14 in the later years. The Hydros came in later on in probably, if I remember correctly, 66 maybe was the first Hydros. So they did put different steering wheels on. I think some of the laters they did a 3-spoke instead of a 2-spoke. Came with the 48-inch Moline deck. I have a couple of those for those other lawn tractors. Now I got that Ford one I don't really need. Yeah, this one's got the manual clutch instead of the electric. My other two have the electric clutch. It's a manual raise and lower the deck. So that's kind of the long and short of this 112 Hydro. Get the hood, go back up. There you can see the engine. It's got an engine tag on it. They all kind of look like that. Gas tank's under the hood. It's missing the air cleaner. I got to get one of those. First off, I got to figure out why I'm not getting any action to the it's a generator starter combination on these. Sounds kind of funny when they turn over because it kind of goes slow, and kind of hoping to do that, but maybe that's something if I can get that going, I'm going to put that at the end of this video. Hopefully I can show this thing running. So that's where I'm at. I am going to see if I can sit in the seat and hear this thing run again after 19 years. So happy to have it here. All right, 24 hours later, back out here working on it. I couldn't get juice to the starter last night, starter generator, so traced it down to the black wire coming out of the ignition switch, going to the starter solenoid was not working. And I found that wire goes down, goes back, and then there's a safety switch to make sure that the hydraulic lever is in neutral before you start. So down in here is your that switch. So I kind of jumped around that, so it does turn over now. But my problem is that it's flooded, probably because the lift pump for the fuel is leaking like crazy. The gaskets are bad, and it's shooting gas out of the exhaust. I just noticed I was getting some bubbles around that bolt right there. I need to trace that down. The carburetor probably needs cleaned. She did try to fire a couple times, so I think that, you know, she's gonna run. I just gotta do that. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this video and post it to show everybody what I've got right now, but I'll keep working on it. I'm gonna make a list of things that I need to keep working on this project and get this thing running, get it cleaned up, get it looking good, see about either new hubcaps or straightening those up and getting them re-chromed, and having it at shows this summer. So Grandpa's 112 Hydro home, I'm happy. And if you see me at shows this summer and you see this there, you'll know the story behind it. Kind of a very special story for me. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, I think the next things that are going to be going on, I need to get everything ready on the propane 302 to paint. I'm going to paint the back and the front wheels and the hubs up front, and then the axle in there in the back, paint those white because they're pretty rusted up, just to make it look right. The white and black band around the hood, and a couple other little pieces. But I need to get painting. Next week it's raining today and in the 60s. Next week's going to be in the 80s. So that's the next project. But I'll be working on that and working on this 112 when I have time. And yeah, we're making some progress here. Again, thanks for watching, and until the next video.